Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. It's early April, and hummingbird sightings are on the increase all across the southern half of the U.S. They are moving in. They're right on time. We did a program earlier about, oh my gosh, when are the hummingbirds going to get? They're going to be early because it's been so warm. No, they're right on time, just like they should be. We always say around here, tax day is about when you can expect them, and that's what the map is looking like. We're going to be pretty close to that. So the birds are on the way. And with that, I thought a good topic of conversation would be like three essential things to attracting hummingbirds to your yard and keeping hummingbirds in your yard. So without further ado, let's introduce the guest of honor tonight. That is the ruby-throated hummingbird here in the eastern two-thirds of the U.S. Now, you guys out west, you're going to have rufous hummingbirds, Anna's hummingbirds, Acosta's hummingbirds, Calliope hummingbirds. You guys out west have a lot more choices than we do. But here east of the Rocky Mountain, it is the ruby-throated hummingbird. So the first thing I wanted to say, the first essential thing, and it may surprise you that I'm starting with this, is I want to talk about landscaping, because some people, once they learn that hummingbird feeders take a little more effort than just a seed feeder by putting in bird seed and letting it hang out there for days and days and not having to do anything. Once they learn that maintenance of a hummingbird feeder, and we're going to talk about this more, is more work, then they give up on hummingbird feeders because they're not willing to put in the effort. So landscaping becomes even more important, especially for people who that's the case for them, but also for you and I who feed hummingbirds when they're in season here. Landscaping, again, birds only get 15% of their daily diet from your bird feeder, and they provide good territory for the males to set up on, and hopefully the females will want to come in and feed on the hummingbird feeders. But having lots of plants available to them, especially native vegetation like this bluebell, which is it is a very, very early blooming plant. It's one of the first things that blooms in my yard in the spring. And it a lot of times coincides when the hummingbirds are first getting back, and they're looking for the sources of nectar and pollen. And this is one of those early sources. So when I talk about landscaping, and I'll put a link to the program in the description below. We did a program with my guest Mary Nemecek and I on our favorite hummingbird plants to plant with. And we talked in that program, just like we're going to talk about here, it's important to have plants that bloom all year long or all summer long for the hummingbirds. Some that bloom early, some that bloom in the middle of the part of the summer, and of course those late for the fall migration. So a couple of the early ones that I like, and people that have are hummingbird regulars like a lot of this plant, the bluebells, and then now this golden currant. Golden currant, it blooms really early, and it's when hummingbirds are first coming in, very important source for them, and it will provide them an alternate source to your hummingbird feeders. Now you can use potted plants, hanging baskets, things that the nurseries are putting out right now to help subsidize and help attract those hummingbirds to your yard. But landscaping is definitely number one. And remember, hummingbirds prefer red tubular flowers like this coral honeysuckle is a big hit with hummingbirds. Why do they like red flowers and orange flowers? Because bees tend to not nectar on red and orange flowers. So that's why red is such a popular color with hummingbirds and with hummingbird feeders. So another one there. And then my favorite hummingbird plant of all time is this one. Red. It's called Cardinal Flower or red lobelia, but it doesn't bloom until August. So it's a late bloomer, but having some in your yard is great to help encourage your hummingbirds to stay in your yard, and things that bloom all through the season. And don't forget, hummingbirds have to feed their babies insects as well. So little tiny flies and fruit flies and lots of little small insects that are attracted to nectar plants like this. The hummingbirds snap them out of the air to feed to their babies, because their babies require calcium, and that comes from the insects just like other birds do. So to me, the first essential for attracting hummingbirds and keeping hummingbirds happy in your yard is landscaping, especially native landscaping. So the next is, now I'm going to talk about the feeders. And when it comes to hummingbird feeders, if you've heard me talk before, you know that I am a big proponent of easy to clean hummingbird feeders. That's because if a hummingbird feeder is harder to clean, it's likely not to get cleaned. And if it's not being cleaned, it isn't healthy for the birds. And remember, we want you to rotate or change your hummingbird nectar regularly. When the temperatures are like now in the 50s, it's okay to go 3 or 4 days. But once those temperatures get up to the 70s and to the 80s, you really need to change that nectar every other day. And I'm a big proponent of the flat saucer type hummingbird feeders because they're top shelf dishwasher safe. These by Aspects popping. You can just put them in there, run them through. And the only thing you have to pay a little extra attention to is that port where that hummingbird has his bill stuck in there, and a little port brush or a mascara brush or anything, a pipe cleaner. Go down there to clean that out, because that's where the hummingbird comes in contact most with the feeder. And if there's going to be any bacteria that it can harm, it's usually in the ports. So that's why one of the reasons I'm a big proponent and a big favor of these. And if you only fill them about half full, they're great anti-bee hummingbird feeders, because the bees can't reach their proboscis that they feed with. Is usually too short to get to the nectar in there down below. Now, I know a lot of you feed out of the bottle type hummingbird feeders. And I read one time that this hummingbird feeder in particular, if you added the sales of all hummingbird feeders together in the world, they wouldn't equal the sales of this one hummingbird feeder. It's been around forever. I'm not a big fan, but we still sell them and a lot of people use them. But I find that they're very hard to clean. And that is because not only do you have to have a bottle brush to get up inside the brush to clean up in there, but these bee baskets that they call them on the outside, they usually get very icky, red, black, and covered. That sugar weather turns and they're dirty, and people don't clean them nearly as well as they may even do the bottle. So you just know that if you do feed out of the bottle type hummingbird feeders, they require cleaning just like all the rest of them, and you may have to put a little more effort to keep those clean. So number one, landscaping. Number two is a easy to clean and a frequently cleaned hummingbird feeder to keep those hummingbirds happy and healthy in your yard. And the last one, and of course, I always talk about water. You know, in my programs, you know me, I harp on water. So hummingbirds are pretty tricky when it comes to water. They will use really shallow bird baths. I've got a really cool video I'm going to show you here in just a second. But for the most part, they love to fly through a mist or a spray of water. So this is a leaf mister that, we do have them on the store, on the online store and in the store, but it sprays water, and the hummingbirds love to fly through that and then go and sit somewhere and preen. Or if you have that mister spraying into a bush, they love to sit under the leaves and let it spray them. One of the things you can do with it, which is pretty neat, is if you have like a fountain like this is my old yard, but you can actually rig it up so that it sprays down into the fountain so that you're not wasting water. It's always been recycled in a fountain like this, and they'll just fly through it back and forth, and then they'll go sit somewhere, which is a great idea. And then we also have bubbler type devices that spray up into the air and that they can fly through as well. So they will, like I said, if you have a fountain or you do have bird baths that have a really shallow spot in it where they can get into it easily and then splash around, then those work as well. And one of the video, I hope you can see that. I know the video is small, but I'm going to play this video from Mary's yard. It's her fountain that she built, and she captured ruby-throated hummingbird coming and bathing in it. So watch closely. I can't talk during it because that's just how this program works, but it's only like 5 or 6 seconds long. So watch for the little hummingbird. I don't know. It's really small, but you probably always saw them better flying off than anything. But that little shallow place there, and the water's bubbling in that fountain and coming off that and cascading down, and it was sitting on that little flat rock where the water was splashing down. Then it got up and flew away. So water is critical. And we know that females like to build their nest close to water. And that's usually creeks and streams and things like that. And I know you can't do anything about that if you don't have those near you. But I bet you there's one within distance of you, or most of you. But if you can stick to those three essentials, landscape with plants that bloom all during the year, that are native, so they attract native pollinators, little insects that the hummingbirds can feed off of, as well as the nectar inside of them. Maintain your hummingbird feeders, keep them clean, change the water frequently. Remember, it's 4 parts of water to 1 part of sugar, not any sweeter than that, but change it frequently. So don't put that much in it, especially at first until they're coming in, because you don't want to throw it. Somebody said today in the store, oh, it gets expensive if I'm throwing it away every couple of days. I said, not if you don't put very much in it. Mix it up, keep it in the refrigerator, and until they're really going through it, just put a little bit in those hummingbird feeders. You don't have to fill them up. That affects the hummingbird in no way. Remember, the little tiny bird has a very long tongue, and they can reach the bottom of that hummingbird feeder without any problem whatsoever. So make sure you got those hummingbirds kept clean, 4-to-1, 4 parts water to 1 part sugar, and a good, reliable source of water for them, especially in the dry season. It gets even more important. And like I said, if you're just watering your yard and you turn your sprinkler so they hit your vegetation, your plants, your shrubs, so that they can get in there and let it drip on them. So the keys to attracting and keeping the hummingbirds in your yard. It's a great idea for a program. If you do like the program, please give us a like, give us a share, and don't forget, Shop Backyard Bird Center has almost all these things I talked about today. And if you buy from there, you support us and help keep us going. So thank you so much. Until next time, come on, let's talk birds.